Yeah, I think with Ben Johnson, head coach of Chicago Bears, I think that definitely is going to be obviously definitely a viral moment, obviously, but it's going to be one that's going to be talked about for a long time. And those are the things that younger players can do. Can you imagine Andy Reid ripping the shirt off and doing a celebration in the locker room? I don't think that's happening. So I said, well, I can't get up this driveway. I'm gonna go back in the house and lay down. Man, do you know what? They sent the position coach to my house. Billy Long came to my house at that time and, man, got me out of bed, picked me up and says, man, you need to get your butt to practice, And everybody's laughing because they're saying, hey, we know you're from Texas, but rain, sleet, or snow, you better have your butt in the stadium and at practice and at meetings,
I didn't think they were going to be this good and have a record this great at this point in the season. I thought they'd have a chance, be in the conversation, make the playoffs. But boy, they have an unbelievable stingy defense. They lead the league in sacks. They're fifth best in total yards allowed, and fourth in points allowed per game. So if you're up high in all those said categories, you're gonna do well and you're gonna win those close games.
Yeah, give me the keys to the kingdom, 'cause I came, I saw, I conquered it all.
All right, we are back. That's right. He's Priest Holmes. I'm Mark Seaman. We both play ourselves in real life. Priest, welcome to another episode of the Holmes Stretch, my friend.
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk sports and, talk about all these interesting factors that are happening over the weekend. A lot has happened. I'm a little jury. I'm a little sad this day, but I know we'll get into that and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, we'll dangle that carrot. Let's dangle that carrot. You are a little bummed, and for good reason. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later on the show. But to kick this show off, what we do want to talk about is everything that's happening in the NFL right now, including surprises, because we've had a lot of big surprises going on throughout the 2025 season. Parity as a fan can be a lot of fun. But when good things happen to your team, awesome. When bad things are happening to your team, not so great, right? And the Chiefs are kind of experiencing that right now. Look, they've been a dynasty for so long now, but they sit at 500 and expectations going forward, we don't know what they are anymore. But beyond the Chiefs, there have been some huge, huge surprises. We're going to talk about those to kick off this episode of the show. So let's drill down on some of those big surprises of the year so far. I'm going to read off some stats to you, Priest, and you tell me the truth if you thought any of these were going to come to fruition at this point in the season. New England Patriots, 11-2, 10-game winning streak. Denver Broncos, 10-2, 9-game winning streak. Chicago Bears, 9-3, 5-game winning streak. That's what we're looking at right now in the NFL. Were you feeling any of this at all at the start of the season?
Yeah, I was thinking definitely Broncos had an opportunity to do something special with Bo Nix, but for the Patriots, New England to be sitting where they're at, looking pretty good, looking really sweet in that win column. That was a big surprise, of course, because there was so much controversy and different things that have been happening with New England. But Chicago, something special is happening there in Chicago. And it seems like that team has galvanized and they are playing together as one.
That's right. These streaks are incredible. These surprises are incredible. So let's dig in here a little bit, and let's start with the Bears, shall we? Second best running game in the NFL right now. Their running backs are showing up and showing out. They got a nice tandem there, and their defense on the other side of the ball leads the league in turnovers, and not just by a little bit, but a wide margin. So, yeah, what are your thoughts here with the Bears? Like, why do you think this is all coming together? You got a rookie head coach. There's some great team chemistry going on right now. Ben Johnson is, he's on the younger side. He's one of these new wave younger coaches. What are your first impressions here? Why are they sitting at 9-3? Why do you think this is happening?
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson as the head coach is exciting to watch. Clearly, he's been getting his 100 push-ups every morning in, and
staying fit, right? Fit.
definitely came ready and definitely fit. But I just think that chemistry is what pulls that team together. And like I said, I use the word by bringing a team player as a head coach. I think he really kind of encompasses in terms of like bringing not only the offense together but the defense as well. He's very energetic, exciting. I think he's kind of a in-your-face coach that, you know what I mean? He kind of holds you to, if you're saying you're going to do something, he's going to hold you to it, But I think he can relate to the players, of course, being a younger coach. I think that ability to talk that locker room talk as a player. Some coaches can be older and kind of be removed from what the younger guys are talking about it and being able to connect with them on that level. But definitely Ben Johnson has something special, and he's doing something special there in Chicago with his team.
That's right. And after this latest win on Thanksgiving, in the locker room, he promised, he ripped his shirt off. He's going bananas, had a nice viral moment, really laying into that team chemistry aspect. Were you ever in a locker room like that, Priest, where maybe bets were made with the coach and the coach had to follow through? Did you have that kind of locker room experience?
Yeah, well, I think locker room experience is what makes a team great. It brings a team together. And if you can have your antics and your jokes and, really get along in the locker room, and sometimes this is behind closed doors, it really shows up on a Sunday. But I think for Lincoln Park and what showed up for them as far as having free hot dogs for all of the fans and having an opportunity for the city to come together and celebrate, those are things that makes teams really push at the end of the season. When you get into the month of December where the games definitely count, if you have a team and now you have a city all united behind hot dogs, you might want to be careful now. Any team that comes in there and faces them, because it's not, it's almost like having that sixth man or having that 12th man, and having that opportunity for someone to be able to kind of push that team. And what's that X factor or missing factor? And right now it's hot dogs in Chicago, and is bringing that team and those fans together.
Yeah, they take it seriously when they have the Wiener Circle, right? The Wiener Circle. That's crazy. All right, well, speaking of hot dogs, because there's a lot of hot debate over this out there in the real world when it comes to how do you take your hot dog, right? What condiments go on a hot dog, if any, should at all? So, Priest, set the record straight for you. What goes on a hot dog? What belongs on a hot dog? And what isn't acceptable to be put on a hot dog?
Well, first off, when I'm thinking of hot dog, you got your mustard, right? You got your line of mustard, your line of ketchup, you got your relish. And of course, if you're going to bring some banana peppers in there, definitely lay them on there.
Okay.
And then for me, you got to sprinkle it down with some chopped up, diced up onions, so yes. I'm definitely going all in on my hot dog as well. But that may not even give any justice, you know what I mean, when it comes to a Chicago hot dog, you're right? It's probably something that, I'm pretty close to it, but definitely far away from it as well. But that's what you need on it. And then you said, what can a hot dog not have? Well,
yeah, what is just banned in your eyes? What should never be placed upon a hot dog?
Not being a mayonnaise person, not being a mayonnaise. You cannot have mayonnaise on a hot dog, man.
All right. Well, for those out there who might not know, several toppings on a Chicago dog, including yellow mustard, some bright green sweet pickle relish, chopped white onions, as you mentioned, Priest, a dill pickle spear, possibly tomato slices or wedges, and pickled sport peppers, dash of celery salt. You can get crazy with these Chicago-style dogs, but for me personally, I like ketchup. I like onions. I'm a sauerkraut guy. I don't know. It's a little bit of Midwest coming out of me, but I love a sauerkraut. Good chili dog every once in a while, also spot on. But there is a lot of debate over ketchup. Does ketchup belong? But for you, it's no mayo. For me, absolutely ketchup belongs on a hot dog, no doubt about it. But look, hot dogs can be fun, man. Another big question too, is a hot dog a sandwich, Priest? Does this qualify as a sandwich? It is
when I think of a
meat
sandwich, I'm thinking ham,
in a bun.
turkey, my P&J, my peanut butter and jelly. You know, that constitute a sandwich. It's between the hot dog is between two buns. Yeah, I get it, but I think it's a little different. I wouldn't consider it a sandwich at all. Now, let me ask you this, Mark. In terms of your hot dog, is this boiled? Is it grilled? What's the best way to have a hot dog, man?
Well, for me, nothing beats a grilled dog, man. I mean, you get some of that smoky flavor right off the grill, especially if you use charcoal. Love that. There's just something really special about that. But there is a time and a place. Maybe it's just me. I like variety. There's a time and a place for a good boiled dog, right?
Okay.
And as a kid growing up, beanie weenies was a thing in my household where we boiled hot dogs, chopped them up into little pieces, and mixed them in there with some baked beans. Did you do that, Priest, as a kid?
Yeah, of course. I grew up in this, of course, I'm a 70s, 80s baby. So, of course, I definitely had the beans and the hot dogs. That was a staple, and that was going to be an afternoon snack at some point in the house.
Yeah. Now, what about you? Fried, boiled, grilled? How are you making your hot dogs?
Yeah, I like it pretty much fried or grilled. I think the most easiest way is to just grab you a pot of water, throw some water in there and boil it and, be done with it. But definitely grilled or fried. Now, let me ask you this, Mark. Have you ever had a hot dog that you heated up in the microwave? Please tell me no. Please tell me no.
Well, my wife always tells me I cannot lie with the best of them. So I have definitely had a microwaved hot dog, and I didn't want to have to announce or repeat that fact, but it is a true statement. I cannot lie. I have had a microwaved hot dog. Look, at a certain age, I didn't have control over what I chose to eat, right? So as a kid, my mom's in a hurry. She's working 2 jobs. She's just throwing hot dogs in the microwave. She didn't have time to boil it. 3 kids, got to get it done. Microwave hot dog, man. Not great. Not great. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I'm even to the point to where if I get a hot dog and it's been wrapped up in foil and it's just been sitting, and yes, technically it might be still warm, I've got to have a right out of the pan, searing hot dog, throw it on there, throw those onions on there, the relish, the sweet relish, as you mentioned, and the mustard and ketchup. If I can get my hot dog, I mean steaming hot right off the grill, that's the way I love it.
That's the sweet spot. All right, I have 2 more questions about hot dogs, and we're going to get back to football. Okay, when you're making your boiled hot dogs, do you make a little slice in the hot dog before you drop it in the water?
Definitely not.
You don't open that thing up and let it split, and as it heats, it gets bigger and wider?
You're talking about if you're dropping it in the water? No. But if you're dropping it on the grill, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. Slice comes on the grill, but not in the boiled water. Interesting. I actually do the opposite. I don't slice it if I throw it on the grill, and I slice it if I'm boiling it. Okay. Last thing here on hot dogs. Maybe you haven't had some of these, but I'm gonna ask anyway. The very famous Dodger dog at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California, the Chicago style dog, and the New York street hot dog. How you ranking these?
Oh man, I couldn't tell you the difference between them. Okay. Is there a difference? Tell me what the difference is.
Absolutely, there's a difference. How you prepare them and how they're made. Look, I'm gonna make a lot of people upset right now, especially where I live in New York City. But if I'm putting these all on a scale, I'm going Chicago dog first, then the Dodger dog second at the stadium, and then I'm doing New York City street dog third. So
gotcha. Now the Chicago dog, is that the one that has the seeds, the poppy seed, or the seeds that are on the bun?
Yes, now we're talking seeds on the bun. That puts it over the top. That's that little icing on the cake.
Yes. So that's where I'm going. I'm going, Chicago dog. I'm going Chicago dog all day, every day.
Love it. And those Bear fans love to hear it too. Okay, so they're celebrating with free hot dogs. People are going bananas in Chicago. It's just a different energy going on there. And after a lot of years of suffering, after a lot of years of finding a QB, they do land on Caleb Williams. Now, here's the interesting thing about Caleb Williams is his stats are okay, right? He's got 2,700 yards right now, 17 TDs to 5 interceptions. That's pretty good, but a QB rating of 54.8 at the moment. But this isn't why the Bears are winning. It's not necessarily Caleb Williams. It's this run game and this defense. So we're going to break down Bears versus Green Bay a little bit later on. But how are you feeling about Caleb Williams in year 2?
Yeah,
you think he's on the right path?
About him. Yeah, I'm feeling much better about Caleb now in year 2. I think one of the concerns I would probably have said just by looking at him and critiquing him on the field is, I'm a foot guy. I'm a running back. I'm always looking at your footwork. And I would say that might have been in question at times, which set him up for bad throws. And I think now, he's able to hit the targets. He's been a lot more consistent at times where he's throwing these really great passes, hitting his targets, getting in between the defenders. And then what follows that is maybe 2 or 3 passes later, you see him throwing a pass. It's like, okay, I saw a great pass from you, Caleb. And then here we are 4 passes later, man, you're throwing a pick or your footwork is not right. You know what I mean? Or you're not hitting that target. So I think he's grown over that. He's a huge guy with confidence that definitely is on a level 10, right? So you're not going to beat him in terms of his approach to the game of whether or not he thinks he should be the quarterback there in Chicago. Is he the man? Is he the leader? He has that confidence, but I think also that reality check about going into the league your first year, you might feel like you can do all these things great, but the league can humble you, especially if the defenses just have your number. But playing with a really great defense like he's doing right now, the running game is definitely intact. When you talk about running backs as a committee, they have a tandem there that's being very, very, very productive. And I think when you have that, even as being even a younger quarterback, you got to say, hey, there's very little that I can really do wrong when a defense is just playing that well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it gives you some wiggle room, and that's the wiggle room he needs to grow and learn and understand. And hopefully, one bad pass every 4 is going to turn into every 10, every 20, or none throughout the game at some point. So good to see him, though, in a good position to be successful. Look, I know this as a Browns fan, and I know these Bears fans know it as well. It's been a long list of quarterbacks over the last 20 years. I'm just going to throw you some random names right now, Priest, all right? Kyle Orton, Rex Grossman, Jeff Blake, Brian Greasy, Jay Cutler, Todd Collins, Josh McNown, Jason Campbell, Brian Hoyer, Matt Barkley. Do you remember any of these? Mike Glennon, Mitchell Trubisky, Chase Daniels. I'll stop there. But the Bears fans know what I'm talking about when it comes to hopefully finally landing on their guy in Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Todd Collins is one that kind of stands out to me. Being a teammate at one point as well with him back in Kansas City.
Nice.
If I'm remembering correctly, Todd generally played as a backup to Trent Green, but still had a very strong arm. Had a good size, a good chin, a good stature as a quarterback. But in terms of being consistent on his throws, that came into question because it was one of those guys I can kind of remind myself of when I was in Baltimore with Tony Banks. One of the cleanest passes, and he's a left-hand quarterback, Tony Banks, and he would tap the ball 2 or 3 times, man, let that ball out his hand, man, and it'd be the prettiest spiral you've ever seen. And he'd do that consistently. But I'll tell you one thing, when Tony Banks started throwing interceptions, it was about the rain. It was going to pour, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, was going to follow. But, it's one of those things that definitely every player has to grow into. I'm sure that being a quarterback, there's so many things coming at you that it can be very difficult at times. But, quarterbacks, they either have it or, they struggle to find it is what I would say.
Yep, that makes sense. Makes all sense. Is it weird catching a ball from a left-handed quarterback versus a right? Like if you're, most quarterbacks are right-handed. So if you're running out to the sideline and they're maybe doing a toss sweep or anything like that, is it weird coming out of a left hand versus a right hand from your perspective as a running back?
Yeah, I think a little bit of it is that if I'm running an out route to the right and then he's a left-hander coming and throwing across his body, that ball comes out a little bit different, when you get ready to catch that ball.
Yeah. It's always messes things up, the left-handed folks. I'm ambidextrous, so I'm on both sides of the coin, but I love my lefties. All right.
Bringing in them drummer skills. I see you bringing in them drummer skills right there. That skills
you got to use your whole body, a left-footed, right-footed, left brain, right brain, the whole thing, man. I don't know where to go, Priest. Sometimes I try to walk straight and I go both directions at the same time.
Breaking news from Bet365. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Sign up, place a bet for $5 and get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Hey, do you have a gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only, 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, and select parishes in Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only. All right. We're going to move on from the Bears, who are having this sensational season. We're going to talk about the New England Patriots right now. They are top of the league. Doesn't matter what side of the coin, east, west, it doesn't matter what division. These New England Patriots are hot, man. What a winning streak they're on right now, a 10-game winning streak. Another quarterback in their second year. Come to think of it, all these quarterbacks are in their second year. Bo Nix, Drake May, and also the aforementioned Caleb Williams. So it's pretty wild what's going on with second-year quarterbacks right now, but I mean, these Patriots, did we think it was going to happen this fast? They're back, and another first-year coach in-house. Now, Mike Vrabel has, spent some time in Tennessee, didn't work out, and it's a little skeptical about how he became the Patriots head coach this season. It's kind of interesting, but he is the head coach, and it is his first year in New England. But all things running, full steam ahead, Priest. What do you think is happening there in New England to make this year special?
Yeah, I think Mike Vrabel is a little bit of a different talent, in terms of being a coach, former player, had a chance to play opposite on the ball against him going into New England at different times. And so when you say a player's coach, I mean, he embodies that. You have a guy that is not too far removed, and he has an opportunity to come in as a leadership. It's a different conversation. I think it's a different relationship when you have a coach that may have been a coach all his life, haven't had an opportunity to step out on the field, maybe played at a much younger age. But for those guys that are professional players and then they retire and then they take on that coach's mantle to lead a team, I think it's a different conversation. And again, I think the relationship is probably a lot different there with Vrabel and that New England team. But his relationship with his players, when you talk about young players, I'm telling you, that energy is something different in the room. That relatability also is something that's very instant. I don't think players second guess a coach when there's that relatability, when they've been someone that is, just recently removed from the game of football, within the last 10, 12 years. Right. So it's a different conversation, and they relate a little bit different way. In terms of when it comes to injuries, you're talking about a coach that understands it. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? You need a day off. You need 2 days off. I think as Vrabel being a coach, I think he's probably a lot lenient in terms of, giving those guys breaks when they need them. And so I think they respect him, of course. And I think he's good for the game also.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And he worked his way up the ranks, right? He didn't just go right into the NFL when it came to coaching. He spent some time at Ohio State. He was a positional coach. Then he moved his way up. He just worked his way up the ladder and got a great opportunity at Tennessee, and it didn't really pan out for him there. But it just goes to show, if the instincts are there, if the coaching ability is there, it's just a matter of being in the right place, the right environment, and also timing has a big thing to do with it. And he's definitely in that position now. Well, this begs the question, Priest, because you asked about leniency. Could you read a coach pretty well that on your team, whether it was positional as a running back coach or a head coach or an assistant coach? Like, did you know what buttons you could push or what favors you could ask? And do you remember any of those moments? Maybe you sweet talked one of your coaches to get out of something, or you put out a nice excuse as to why you didn't make a meeting?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many different excuses. Like I said, I had a running back coach by James Saxon. And so to push his button, miss a block, you know what I mean, on a third down, and you definitely going to know how to push his buttons. I had coaches at different times when I was in Kansas City, when it snowed and, I tried to sometimes get out of practice. I had to say I'm guilty of that. There was one time, being from Texas, I called in, and they were looking for me, and they were like, man, where the heck is Priest? He needs to be at practice, right? I had a slope in my driveway that went uphill, and it was a very steep slope, and it actually snowed. So, me being from Texas and pulling out my SUV and trying to back out of the driveway, out of the garage, I started spinning. So I said, well, I can't get up this driveway. I'm gonna go back in the house and lay down. Man, do you know what? They sent the position coach to my house. Billy Long came to my house at that time, and man, got me out of bed, picked me up, and says, man, you need to get your butt to practice, and everybody's laughing because they're saying, hey, we know you're from Texas, but rain, sleet, or snow, snow, you better have your butt in the stadium in that practice and that meetings, and you can't blame it on the snow. So yeah, I knew how to push some of the buttons, and I also knew how to maybe get some love from the coaches, in terms of, blamed it on the snow at times.
That is amazing. What a story. So they sent staff out to come get you. Did you freak out a little bit? Like, did you know the staff was coming, or were they just like, who's knocking at the door right now? And you're in your pajamas, you open the door and you're like, oh my God.
No, it was a matter of time, Mark, before they got there. And I knew it because, you go about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and you haven't showed up to that team meeting. Now it's the position meeting, offensive and the unit meetings. They're going to start looking for you, and those phones are going to start buzzing. So definitely, I blamed it on my truck. I said, hey, I'm from Texas. I've never been able to back out of snow. I said, my truck is just spinning. It's dangerous, coach. I can't come to practice. And he says, I don't care what you are doing. You're going to be here in practice, So they definitely did. They sent Billy Long out to get me. He was our strength and conditioning coach. And we laughed, man. And the whole time he put me in his truck, man, and took me right on to the stadium and right to practice, right in the snow.
Oh. That's amazing, man. And of course, they send the strength and conditioning guy because he could physically pick you up out of bed, throw you on his back, fireman carry style, right out to his car. So no excuses. I can't walk in the snow. I can't step in the snow. He's going to throw you right in the back of his car and get you. That is an incredible story. And also hilarious, Priest. That's really funny. Yeah, I can't imagine, me being from the Cleveland area, we'd have to climb out our second floor window if we got lake effect snow 10 feet up and couldn't push our front door out. There were no snow days at school. There was no, I could also see your coaches throwing some chains on your tires too. To prevent that from happening. No more excuses for you. But that's absolutely hilarious. What a funny story. Okay, so having a coach like Vrabel where you can relate not only as a player, and he's just young enough, because we're going to talk about the difference between super young coaches and coaches that are a little bit older. But Vrabel's kind of right in that sweet spot. He's, in his 50s, low 50s. So he kind of is the bridge between the older generation and the newer generation. So look, again, it goes back to chemistry, relatability. And, the Patriots right now, let's take a look. They're the second best passing team in the NFL right now, averaging 256.5 yards per game. And Drake May has taken that step from year one to year two. He's thrown for almost 3,500 yards already, 23 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions with a 72.8 QB rating. That's nice, Drake May. You know why I love Drake so much, Priest? He's on my fantasy team. But he's hurting me because he's on bye this week and the playoffs start in fantasy. What am I going to do? I got to go to my backup.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, man. What Drake May, and I think any of the younger quarterbacks, you think at Bo Nix as well. I mean, the list is long in terms of younger quarterbacks in the league in 2025. But when you look at their interceptions compared to their touchdowns, man, these kids actually, man, they're lighting it up, in terms of that balance. There's definitely a good balance in between that, and that's what's making them successful. And they're keeping that ball out of the components' hands. And, when I think of, Caleb and these younger guys that are playing football, it has to speak to your defense that just really brings even that additional confidence. Because, I mean, if you're a quarterback and my defense is going to go out there and within maybe 3 to 4 downs, we're going to be getting the ball back. That's a confidence boost as well for a younger guy that even if you might make a mistake early in the game, you still know, hey, my defense is going to bail me out and give me another opportunity at the helm and, get another first down and try to move that ball into the red zone and score a touchdown.
That's right. And something we'll talk about to wrap up this segment is when you think about these three teams, and we'll go into the Broncos now, they don't have traditional superstars at skill positions. Sutton being the exception for the Broncos, maybe. But like, if I say to you right now, name the top 3 receivers on New England. Name the top 3 receivers in Chicago.
One in particular that always causes grabs a lot of attention and always make the headlines if anything is going to happen, bad or good, and that's going to be Diggs.
That's right, Stefon
yes.
Diggs.
So you can have Diggs on your team, and I'm gonna tell you what, everything else is going to be polarizing around that guy. And I mean, he's also playing lights out. And for someone to battle back from injury, it kind of speaks to his work ethic, and then all of the off-field antics that obviously he's been involved in, and that have also maybe even dampened his career in terms of like not being a fan favorite at times. he's right back doing the things he does best. I think he's focused. He's in a different situation also on a personal level. And so I think it plays for better football. And then, of course, if you take anyone that has a tendency to, have a negative light shine behind them, or they're constantly always getting, kind of in trouble, as you say, or getting bad press, take their butt up to New England where it's cold and it ain't much that you're going to be able to do. Flights, you're not going to be able to get out the city as fast as you want. You might get snowed in. Take their butt up there, man, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be a different player. So
that is hilarious. Yeah, they'll pull a Priest Holmes and be like, I couldn't get out of my driveway. It was snowing today. That's really funny.
Playing lights out, man, and I'm glad that these younger guys are definitely getting an opportunity and getting the shine. There's been a time where it's always been traditionally your older quarterbacks that definitely kind of run the show late in the season. They know how to pull out a win and get their team to the playoffs. But these young guns, they're gunning. They're exciting to watch. And like I said, this month of December is going to be truly exciting with the games that are going to come here in the next few weeks.
That's right. All right. If we're going to do a little bit of receipt checking right now as we talk about the Denver Broncos, I know that one of the two of us, Priest, were high on the Broncos the very first episode of the Home Stretch. I'm not going to point fingers at anybody in particular, but the Broncos are doing pretty well, but they're winning these games by such a narrow margin. It's like 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. They're barely hanging on, but they're getting it done. We talked about these winning streaks. They're currently on a 9-game winning streak, one below the New England Patriots. I didn't think they were going to be this good and have a record this great at this point in the season. I thought they'd have a chance, be in the conversation, make the playoffs. But boy, they have an unbelievable stingy defense. They lead the league in sacks. They're fifth best in total yards allowed, and fourth in points allowed per game. So if you're up high in all those said categories, you're going to do well and you're going to win those close games. And when we take a look at Bo Nix and his stats year 1 to year 2, he currently sits at 2,700 yards, just over 2,700 yards, 19 TDs, but 9 interception, and a pretty low quarterback rating, 54 right now. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. So is this really more about the defense and Bo Nix just managing the situation, or it doesn't matter what the stats say? You got to have a game manager, and Bo Nix is just that.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix has definitely been a great manager of the game. At the end of the day, if they're winning the game by 3 points, I have this question for you, Mark. Do you take a win as a win? Do you just, do you take the 3-point win and just like, what, on to the next game? Or do you go back, watch film, try to figure out, why are we winning by 3 points? We need to win by 10. Or that's what I'm asking you. Do you simply take the 3 points and you say, hey, we'll worry about how the dust falls later? If we keep winning, doesn't matter.
Well, look, I'll answer this two ways, and this is me dancing around the answer. As a fan, a win is a win is a win is a win. I don't care. Your record says what you are, right? That's the quote. As a fan, I just want wins, man. And the Browns don't get very many of those. So as a Bronco fan, I'd be beyond elated at the moment. But if I'm in a player's shoes or a coach's shoes, I'm taking a hard look and I'm breaking down film, and I got to figure out what's going on here, because when it comes playoff time, these wins, when you're squeaking out by 1, 2, 3 points, it's not going to cut it. You're going to be eliminated in the first round. So that's how I'm going to answer this question. As a player, as a coach, I'm breaking down film and figuring out what we can do better here, because again, once the playoffs start and you make it, all those records get thrown out, and it's about matchups. And so you've got to dive in and really break it down when it comes to matchups, because it only takes 1 point to win a game, yes, but you got to win that game, and it comes down to matchups. You agree with that? Am I on the right page here?
No, well, Mark, I think that's great. And I think early or in the season when we were talking about the different teams, I think obviously Denver stood out to you, and you knew that there was something special, especially about how Bo performed, coming out of college, and his IQ and his level to be a winner in the game. But
and he closed the season out great. last year.
Yes, and then the way they can close out a season. So I think that, this now is what catches up to them. And this is the reason why I say that they are not going to, they're obviously a playoff team, but they're not going to go far in the playoffs. And this is probably one of the things that is going to haunt them is that, they've made a reality of their season by winning by 3 points, and it makes for good business during the regular season, but it comes back to haunt you, right? Because if you got a game and you're close into the fourth quarter in the playoffs, believe me, a team can make it happen and come back and, defeat you. So it'll be interesting to see how they play out, but I don't think that they will take it the distance come playoff time.
Well, oddly enough, these Denver Broncos are in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are chasing both the Broncos and the Chargers at the moment. Maybe we'll talk about the Chiefs to close out the show, but the Broncos are leading their division. And if all things go well, I'm not saying they're going to get a bye, but you do have a chance to get a bye if you do end up winning your division. And if they keep this, if they make this 9-game winning streak go 10, go 11, go 12, they're in that conversation, no doubt about it. So that's the Denver Broncos. So if you had to pick one of these three teams,
okay,
the Broncos, the Patriots, or the Bears, who's been your biggest surprise of the season so far in 2025?
Yeah, for me, is the Bears. Just because, like I said, I remember the antics. I remember how Caleb came in coming out of college. I know the expectations were very, very high. I think he, had the chance for the reality to set in, allow him to kind of humble himself as well. Still a quarterback that really is very confident about how he approaches the game. But my biggest surprise is definitely with the Chicago Bears.
All right. I think I agree with you there because, the Broncos, as we discussed just a moment ago, I thought they were going to be something this year, so it's not that much of a surprise. When it comes to the Patriots, man, it is surprising, but I feel like they were positioned more to have success. And they're following through with that with Vrabel, with Drake, how high everybody was on Drake May and expectations for him this year. And look, we're just so used to the Patriots winning from the Tom Brady era. They're back, man. This could be round 2 for them. Who knows if a dynasty could be in store for them. So I'm with you. I think the Bears, unexpectedly, there's just so much was up in the air before the season started. People were talking about 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins. So I'm with
they
you
were
on
definitely
that.
wrong about
Biggest
that,
surprise.
Mark, because these teams have definitely been able to put together some incredible wins, calling for a really great season. Fans are buying jersey, people are buying popcorn. Everybody's having fun, and everybody's on the bandwagon on all 3 of these teams. But come playoff time, it's going to be probably a different story. And of course, with the younger quarterbacks, they're going to get a kind of an introduction, in terms of how the game changes, the speed changes. And now those small mistakes, and I talk about Caleb Williams, when you talk about his footwork, well, if you haven't corrected that, if you haven't gone back to your basics and improved that, guess what? It'll catch up. It'll catch up with you in the playoffs.
All right. Of the 3 teams, who has the best chance to make it the farthest in the playoffs?
Out of the
Which
3
one
teams,
of these teams can get out of the first round?
Well, I think I wouldn't want to say that when I look
putting
at
you on the
these,
spot, Priest. I know.
Yeah. So who could get out of the first round?
Yeah. Who do you think has the best chance of the 3 teams? Even if they all lose, but do you think any one of these 3 teams has the best chance? Like I'm leaning towards the Patriots. I think the Patriots could get out of the first round, maybe, have an upset possibly. Although, looks like it's going to be going through New England in the playoffs if all holds right now. So, but I think for me, the Patriots have the best opportunity to make it.
I think you're
the
basically
first.
saying the team with the bye has the best chance to get out of the first round because they're not going to be playing. A nice one. I like
you
that.
You read me like a picture book, Priest. You read me like a picture
reading
book.
between the lines on you.
All right, Priest, you know the deal. It's never ordinary with Bet365, and it's prediction time. We've got a big matchup coming up this Sunday between the aforementioned Chicago Bears at 9-3 as they take on what seems to be their biggest threat in the division, the Green Bay Packers, who are 8-3 and that 1 tie. So the Bears lead the division by a half game. That just lets you know how important this matchup is. Bears at 9-3, Packers at 8-3-1. It's an NFC North showdown. Who's going to win this game? As we discussed earlier, the Bears are on a 5-game winning streak. The Packers are on their own winning streak. It's not as big, but it is 3-game winning streak. And I think all the chatter really is this Jordan Love versus Caleb Williams matchup. So that's going to be our focus here. Caleb Williams versus Jordan Love. We're going to find out who your Beast of the Week is going to be. We talked almost ad nauseum about Caleb Williams already, but Jordan Love, what are your vibes right now on Jordan Love overall? Do you think he's in a good place? When he started his career, he was on the bench for a while, got to learn a lot, and now he's getting to show his stuff, but it's one game to the next with Jordan Love. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I think that, he did have a chance to where he had to sit and learn for when he first came into the league. I'm still not a big believer on Jordan Love just because I feel like he needs a little bit more time to develop. Again, I still don't think that, as a team, they have just that deep threat, just that over the top guy that can catch the ball. I think all of the passes, which I've mentioned before, I think Jordan Love does a great job in terms of leading his team with making sure any of those routes that are, within 12 to 15 yards, I think he can be really successful in that. Any crossing routes he can be. But at the end of the day, I'm going Caleb Williams if I did the matchup. I think the confidence level, both quarterbacks have it. I think the swag is a little bit different with Caleb. And I always tell you, man, if he can get his footwork together, he's able to throw great balls, for the first 3 passes. But again, it tapers off, falls off when you get to, pass 4 or 5. It's like, what a great pass, Caleb. Oh my goodness, Caleb, you're killing me on this next one. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. But Caleb has that confidence, that I think, stands out between the two. So you take a Jordan Love, you put him next to a Caleb Williams, who's going to be more boisterous, who's going to stand out more, who's going to kind of have that command of leadership. I think you're going to see that maybe from a little sign of arrogance with Caleb, but I think you're going to see that more with Williams than you will with Love.
Okay. And look, you got to be that way in order to pull off a victory, go into Lambeau Field, right? Bears are on the road here, but they're a cold weather team too, so it's not really a weather issue. It's an environmental issue. But if you have a QB who's going to be boisterous, who's going to take risks, that's what you're going to need to win. And that running game, like we talked about before, is really going to help balance things for Caleb and allow him to take said risks. So that's going to be a big factor as well. Okay, so let's get a little more niche with the two, Caleb Williams and Jordan Love. Who's going to finish with more passing yards? Do you think it's going to be Jordan Love with that deep threat, or do you think it's going to be Caleb Williams surprising some folks because the Packers are thinking run defense?
Yeah, I think they're thinking run defense. I also think that the Bears are going to be thinking run first as well with their tandem. So with that being said and having more success with the running game, I don't see Caleb coming into Lambeau Field and outthrowing Jordan Love. So I'm giving that to Jordan Love, most yards.
Okay, most yards, Jordan Love in the game. All right, who's going to throw for more touchdowns in this game? You don't have to throw for a lot of yards to throw for a lot of touchdowns.
That's right. You can do that. But I'm going Jordan Love. I think just being at home, he's got the upside. He's got the momentum. And then, of course, you know who he isn't going to have in his face, Jordan Love? He's not going to have Parsons in his face. He's not going to have that in his face, So it's going to be a little bit of a different element there.
True.
Again, like I always tell you, man, when you're playing ball, come Thanksgiving, come December, man, it always reminds me, Green Bay, man, it's just as if you just walked outside to the local high school, man, and you're throwing the football around, and that's where some great football is done. But, I don't think it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be an exciting game and, a thriller over the top passes and anything like that. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to come down to the running game and the defense and who has the ball last.
Okay, so more running focused, but of the two quarterbacks, you think Jordan Love will throw for more? Or do you think they'll both throw for one touchdown?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Jordan Love throwing for more touchdowns. Okay, will we see, because we're going to keep the ball on the ground here philosophically, do we see either of these QBs with a rushing touchdown? And who has the better opportunity to have a rushing touchdown? Caleb Williams or Jordan Love?
Yeah, so better opportunity just because I know Caleb Williams, sometimes he can't get right with his feet. I'm going Jordan Love. He's going to have more of an opportunity to get into the end zone.
All right, I think you're spelling it out for us this week, Priest. You're making it pretty obvious. So if we're picking a beast of the week, despite the result of the game, of these two players, you think Jordan Love or Caleb Williams is going to be your beast of the week at the quarterback position?
Man, here we go. This is a good one. With all the confidence in the world that Caleb Williams is coming into Lambeau Field, it's not going to last. It's not going to last at all. So, the Priest Beast pick of the week is going to be Jordan Love, and it's going to be exciting to see him take on that title.
Okay, and does that result in a win for the Packers? Who's going to win this game outright? Who you got? Which winning streak is going to end? But dare I say, could it be a tie? I mean, the Packers have already done it.
They have had a tie, and ties are not meant to be played or end up in a football game. You know what I mean? That just shouldn't happen. But of course, it did happen in 2025. But here it goes. I think at the end of the day, it's all Green Bay. It's all Jordan Love. And they're going to get the dub. They're going to get the W.
Okay, so death to the 9-game winning streak, and the Packers go from 3 to 4 games when it comes to a winning streak. All right, so there it is. Your winner, the Packers over the Bears at home at Lambeau Field. Jordan Love's going to be Priest Beast of the Week, and let's give a score prediction. What do you got? You think it's going to be a tight game? Is this by a field goal? What are we thinking?
Yeah, it's going to be by a field goal because they're going to be running the ball mainly, so it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and it's the defense, doing 3 and out. So is there going to be a lot of touchdowns scored? No, I don't think so. But will the game be the measure between 3 points? Yes, it's going to be by a field goal.
Okay, my bones are telling me 13-10 Packers.
Oh, you're going real low. And I would say that. Yeah. Remember I told you, man, it's like a high school football game when you come to Lambeau Field, man, on a Sunday. So if you're going 13-10, I'm going 17-14.
17-14. I
yes.
Like it. Okay. All right. There it is. That has been your Bet365 Never Ordinary prediction segment with Priest and me, Mark.
That's right.
Hey, do you have a gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only, 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly. Must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, and select parishes in Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply in Apple.
All right, Priest. We're going to slightly change topics here just a little bit. I want to talk to you about oldest active head coaches versus youngest head coaches, what they both bring to the table, and why it's working for the younger group versus the older group. So I'm going to run you through a list of the oldest and youngest coaches, and then let's dive in, all right?
Here we go. Let's go.
Oldest active head coaches. Pete Carroll, 74 years old. Not going too well right now. 2-10 with the Las Vegas Raiders. Andy Reid coming in second, 67-year-old coach with the Kansas City Chiefs, currently at 500, 6-6 is their record. Could this be the end of the dynasty? We don't know. John Harbaugh, 63 years old with the Baltimore Ravens. He's also at 6-6. And we know Baltimore had been struggling, but they had to deal with an injury to their quarterback, and they seem to be on the rise, but they play in a terrible division. And finally, Todd Bowles, 61 years old, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only team out of these top 4 coaches here, when it comes to age, they're sitting at 7-5, but the only reason they're over 500 is because they just broke a 3-game losing streak. So, we don't know where we're at with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, when it comes to the younger head coaches, Kellen Moore at the New Orleans Saints, 36 years old, a record of 2-10, but he's the only one doing bad. We know what's going on in New Orleans right now. A lot of turnover, new quarterback, a lot of injuries. It's expected, 2-10. But the Seattle Seahawks, Mike McDonald, 36 years old, 9-3. Let's go. Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears, we talked about him, 9-3. He's 38 years old. And Sean McVay, who seems like he's been in the league already for almost 2 decades, is sitting at 9-3 with the Los Angeles Rams. What's going on here, Priest? Younger coaches versus older coaches. Is it just where the league's at right now? It's not necessarily about age and respect and experience, and it's more about relatability to players?
Yeah,
What are your
I
thoughts
think
on
so.
this?
Yeah, let's go with older coaches. And, we talk about Pete Carroll being one of the oldest ones now. But, it even takes me back, even during the times that I was playing, Ted Marchibroda. When I first got introduced into the league in 1997, he was the oldest coach in the league at that time. A different philosophy, believed in straight hard work, put your head down, don't complain and do what you need to do to get on the field, right? I think today's in time is different, and I think with the success that the younger coaches are having, and then the Ben Johnson, of course, like I said earlier, that chemistry that he has with the team. But there definitely is a difference in terms of the approach between an older coach and a younger coach. I think in terms of being that leadership, you'll get that from both coaches, But I think in terms of when I think of older coaches, like for Pete Carroll, some of those younger players probably can see him more like, like it's kind of like not necessarily even a father figure, but more of like a grandfather figure, you know what I mean? In terms of what you talk about one of the younger coaches, of what I compared it to. But I think it makes a big difference between the older coaches to the younger ones. I think the thing that also stands out is the energy that a younger coach can bring to his team. He can be very much more energetic, much more in your face and rile you up as the guys. You can go out to dinner with the younger coach, man, and he can look just like one of the players when you're out,
Right.
and have a good time. And he's going to know what's in and what's out. The relatability is going to be a little bit different as well. But I think the difference also that I think older coaches have over younger coaches is the ability that if you're going through a tough spot, a hard problem, I think because of that, the years of experience from an old coach, I think they have the ability, for you to come into that room, man, and really have a heart to heart in a different way and expectation with the younger coach, because it is about the wins on both levels, but it's also about the relationship. And I think those relationships build in a different way. And I think that the relationships probably go a lot longer with the older coaches than the younger players. The younger coaches, but at the end of the day, when it comes to football, it comes with the NFL. It's about the W. We all know that, and
Yes.
That's where all these coaches are sitting at right now, trying to win these games and trying to put their team above the next team. So my hat goes out to the younger coaches for what they're doing. But, for me, I'm always going to side with the older coaches, man. This is a different relationship. And it's the one I definitely can tell you continues on. Coach Ramil turning 89, he's one coach that I still continue to talk to. He reaches out to me. I'll text him, on a weekly basis sometimes, and then on the, might be 2 or 3 months, but it's always a call that's going to come in that on a once a month basis, man. Coach Ramil, let a couple of weeks go by. He's going to be texting me saying, Priest, what are you up to? I hadn't heard from you, And
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, So, I'm definitely all for the older coaches. Definitely.
Well, we talked about the landscape of the game just in general, right? Like from a player's perspective, what's the incentive to play more than 3, 4, or 5 years, and social media being such a huge part of the game now, and access and behind the scenes and, branding, these players are all individual brands now. Just everything about the younger generation is just so vastly different from when you came into the league. And maybe there's a rift when it comes to respect, right? Because you can't, back when you played, there was no going to a coach and be like, hey, coach, man, work-life balance. Like, I need a day off, Like, come on, ease up. Like you said, it was hard work. It was 2-a-days. It was live, breathe, eat football 24/7. That's just not the mindset now. And so maybe that's why these younger coaches are having such great success, because to your point, you can relate. You know what's in, you know what's out. You're going out to dinner. You can't tell the difference, right? Some of these coaches are younger than players on their team that they're coaching. That's just wild, And I'm not saying you can't respect a younger coach, but it does make a difference. It's just how we talk about the game, how we act around the game. Everything is just so different. And maybe that's just coming to fruition now. And that's why this younger batch of coaches just having great, great success. But like you, I would rather have somebody that's been there, done that, been around for a long time, and I'm all about relationships. lasting forever. So it is different, the two perspectives. I'm sure a younger player coming in the league saying, hey, I made $26 million right out the gate. I don't even need to play anymore. I'm good for life. I'll jam out here for 2-3 years. I'll move on to some other team, have some other coach, and then peace out. And wait, who was my coach again when I came in the league? I just feel like that's what's happening right now. But it is just a pretty interesting thing I wanted to take a look at, because when we look at 2025 in particular, the Pete Carrolls of the world, they're not faring too well right now, man. 2-10 is not something an older coach would like to accept, but these players are bouncing around so much, you don't even know who's going to be on your roster, right?
Yeah, so no more difference, or the difference between a player that is actually aged and he's now on the tail end. He's in his 30s, mid 30s, and on the end of his career, is much more the same story as with a coach. As a coach, as they get up in age, man, they start looking at the back end. There's not that many more games. There's not that many more seasons I'm going to get to have. Much like an older player. But I think with the younger coach, younger player, there's always tomorrow, right? There's always another year. I'm young. You're not thinking about, 10 years down the road, or knowing that, hey, man, it's going to be a little different here in the next 2 years. I'm going to be out of football, just because life takes a different, direction for you. And then sometimes you age out, you'd hate to say that, a coach can age out, but at some point, it comes to that. And we see that with some of the older coaches, as much as that they want to stay connected to the game. Sometimes the game kind of moves past them.
Yeah, that's true. But, when I think back as a kid and I see the Buddy Ryans and the Marv Levy's and all those guys that were older coaches back in their heyday yelling at people and like getting them all fired up, I feel like that's kind of fizzled a little bit too. It's interesting. It really is interesting how it all has really changed and where the league has gone since then. But always appreciate your insight on these kind of things, Priest. And the fact that you and Dick Vermeil are still chatting, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man. And, he's definitely taken a liking to the wine business over the years. He lives on a ranch. He probably has, he's probably over 30s plus grandkids and, and things of that nature. And, but it's been a truly probably a big, huge family and a big success story for him, of his legacy and what he's left behind on the field, and what he gets the chance to, just kind of get reminded of when his players are reaching out to him. And I think that means the most to the older coaches. I think when you take this, you have a younger coach, you have an older coach, man. What does it mean? What is the difference between that player when you're older reaching back out to you and you're reminiscing about those games in the locker room talk, or even maybe a speech that the coach gave, that was one that just stands out for a lifetime, I'll tell you what.
They're not doing speeches anymore, Priest. They're not doing speeches. They're ripping their shirt off, they're flexing, and they're just different times, man. Different times.
Yeah, I think with Ben Johnson, head coach of Chicago Bears, I think that definitely is going to be definitely a viral moment, obviously. But it's going to be one that's going to be talked about for a long time. And those are the things that younger players can do. Can you imagine Andy Reid ripping the shirt off and doing a celebration in the locker room? I don't think that's happening. I do not think that's happening, right? And just
no
with
offense
that said,
to Andy Reid, but I can't unsee that now, Priest. I can't unsee that.
Yeah. So, but that's the things that the younger coaches can do. They can relate, and they can come down to that level. I can imagine and seeing, Micah Parsons ripping his shirt off, after a win, and flex in front of the camera. And now you look across the field now, and Caleb is looking at his coach doing it, And Caleb had an interesting interview as well. He said, I wouldn't recommend telling my coach to do that, even though he got excited and did it. I wouldn't recommend him doing it. There's a place and time for everything, man. And it looks like Ben Johnson had an opportunity to celebrate. And that's going to be looked at for a number of years to come.
Yeah. Look, wild times, man. Free hot dogs. Bears are successful. It's all changed, Priest. It's all changed. It's all different.
Yeah, but I tell you what hasn't changed about the Chicago Bears. That actually was one of another one of those stadiums that I really didn't like playing in, man.
Soldier Field. You weren't a fan?
Not a fan at all, man. I've actually had an opportunity to play a game where it was snowing. It was coming down at an angle.
Oh wow!
It was almost like it seemed as if we ran the ball just about every down, and any pass that was thrown, it just bounced off the receiver's hands because it was the ball had frozen just that quickly. So
ice
That stadium,
ice
of course,
cold.
playing in Chicago is definitely tough, especially on a winter Sunday, man. That's tough.
Well, when they make the playoffs, it's if you got to go to Chicago, that's going to be a huge advantage. So, calling back our previous seg, maybe that will be what gets them out of the first round. The weather, we'll see.
Yeah, well,
We'll
weather
see.
will help them, especially if they've got this tandem going with the running backs and the production at the level that they're at right now. You take that into the playoffs, and you're saying it's going to be snow, and then we're running the ball right down the gut at you. That will become a pretty exciting thing for the Chicago Bears. They definitely have an advantage.
That's right. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Home Stretch. Priest, very exciting, man, because we got a big episode coming up next week. We're heading to KC, baby. Let's go. We're going to be back down in Kansas City for a live show. We're going to be doing the Home Stretch live for the second time down there at the Brooksider and on the Missouri side of things. We're going to be on the other side of the river. You got to touch both sides, right? We got to make both sides happy. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some special guests joining us. Wink, wink. I'm not going to reveal who that is yet, but it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun being in that live environment again, feeling the energy, doing our thing. And last I checked, Priest, they're going to have like a little football toss activation on the side. So I might have to challenge you to see who would be the better quarterback. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. You got running back legs, but I got QB arms. I'll go left or right, man. I'm a dual threat.
Yeah, what I love about going back to Kansas City, of course, is a few things. Number one, the barbecue, right? Get a chance to hit some of my favorite restaurants that I haven't had a chance to eat at in a few months. Get back to Kansas City and enjoy some great barbecue. There's a number of them, so you can't go wrong with most of the ones that you patronize. And then, of course, I get a chance to see how the city is developing and how it's changing. And of course, it's always been that state line where we'll be, all right there. So we were the last time we were there on the Missouri side. Now we're on the Kansas side. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm get a chance to see some of the fans that, it's probably been some years I haven't seen. Some it's actually been a couple of months, since the last game that I attended, but it's going to be fun. Can't wait. And then again, the beautiful thing about it, minus the food, minus getting to see where the city's at, I get a chance to see some of my former teammates, man. And that's what makes it a great reunion for me. And it's alumni weekend. So there'll be a number of guys that'll be back in town also. And then Christian Okoye, he's doing an incredible job. He has a shop with a jock. He'll be doing that on Saturday as well. And so it'll be great to see, all these teammates and see what they're doing in the city. And everybody's doing something. So hopefully, our special guests, it might be snowing.
Our special guest.
It might be snowing, Mark. So
who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to get out of your driveway on
That's
Saturday
what I'm
morning?
saying. Hey, Mark, make sure I may have to call you, man, to come pick me up.
Well, I'm neither a strength or conditioning coach, but I will make sure I'll be there to wake you up, and I'll do my best to fireman carry you with the help of maybe some of your former teammates out to the venue at the Brooksider so we can celebrate and have a great time in front of all those fans that are going to show up and be pumped to be there and bring that energy. So if you're going to be in Kansas City, join us. That's right, December 6th. Show up at like 1 o'clock. Show up at 12:30. Get there early. We're going to kick things off 1 o'clock with a live episode of the Home Stretch, and we hope to see you there.
This has been a Playmaker production.